come along with us as we dive into the fascinating world of sound to uncover the secrets of sound, voice, and vibration. Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Bridging the Science and Spirituality of Sound, Voice, and Vibration. And I am very pleased and excited to talk to my guest today, Monica Silva. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. We actually met at an expo not too long ago, and she was behind me exhibiting, and she's all about water. And we're going to find out a lot more now about how water helps our health, the intelligence of water, and I'm not going to give it away because it's really, really exciting. This new work, all these new awarenesses that are coming up about the intelligence of water. So Monica is first and all, she's probably a mom, right, Monica? For sure.
Yes.
A mom, an immigrant. She's a wife, a mentor, a matriarch, and a former corporate climber. So many people who've been in corporate have, shifted over to more holistic endeavors. It's amazing. She said she was taught that exhaustion was the price of freedom and the hustle was the only path to impact. But for over a decade, she built successful businesses for others, but she knew that something was missing in her own life. And she said water changed that. Not just how she drank, but how she led, chose, rested, and how she built. And through elemental study, ancestral reflection, and real life experience, she began weaving together what she had always known. Structure without soul burns out, spirituality without systems dissolves, and water stabilizes both. Monica, welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here today. And yeah, we were just talking off camera, and I said, I've always been fascinated by water. I did a video a few years ago about how beautiful the water was coming down after a big rain. And
Mm.
I was enchanted by it. When did you first start to get enchanted by water?
Well, I would say in the womb, you know. I think we as a species are so in tuned with the waters of the world, of ourselves. Molecularly, we're 99% water. So that means every aspect of our whole body is at some point touched by water. So for me, more recently, I would say it became a very prominent part of my practice and my business in the last 5 years. I call the water calls to you because I was looking for a holistic option to um, to just migrate some of the things that I was physically going through in terms of, some ailments and, precursors to chronic disease and things like that. So I started just doing a little bit of research, and I found that not all water is the same. And that really took me down a spiral. But I would also say from a spiritual perspective, I found that being near bodies of water, be it the beach or a stream, river, any moving body of water, always really just brought this deep sense of calm and sort of a remembering. And now, 5 years after my journey really started to go down this path of learning and investigating and trial and error, um, it has made my connection, both the science of the water and the spirituality of the water, really one and the same.
Beautiful. That's incredible. Yeah, there's something definitely, yeah, that I would say that there's something very profoundly spiritual about water, about how it affects us in so many aspects. I mean, people want to live by water all the time. The homes are at a premium price, right?
Yes.
Waterfront.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something people are drawn to it. And, could that be because we are water? Literally, we are. There's
Yeah.
something very amazing. And you talk about, I know there's a lot of talk now about structured water. I'm not, what is that? Do you know? I haven't really looked into that. So maybe you could explain a little bit. Uh,
Yeah, there is different ways. And naturally, when you look at a waterfall, for example, right, the movement of the water, or if lightning hits a body of water, there are natural processes that have been around for as long as the earth has been around, as long as the water has been on the earth, that will structure, shape, create a negative charge, all different properties that the water has. And most of us know that the three common phases of gas, solid, and liquid, right? When it comes to water. Did you know that there's a fourth phase?
I did not.
So plasma is another form of water, and that's why we say molecularly, because we have so much plasma in the body. And one would also argue, when you're talking in that quantum metaphysical world, that the spirit is plasma. If you had to kind of link the two together, because there's been some studies that are fairly recent in the last, I would say within the last decade, maybe 6 years or so, where they discovered um, that there's a component in the body in between the fascia called the interstitium. And it's a watery pathway, like a webbing, like within the fascia. And they didn't know about it before because all they studied were cadavers. So then, when they were doing studies on living beings, they discovered this connective tissue, and it's all water, it's plasma, it's the fourth state. And so that's where it's like, okay, well, if it's only in living beings, then what is that, right? So, there's a lot of hypotheses in that too. It's not necessarily some of it's all 100% science because the science itself is still developing on some of these things. You mentioned structured water, for example. That's another thing that there are different devices that can structure water. Sometimes people put shungite in their water. You can create a vortex of water. Different devices can do that too. There's a lot of different ways to alter water. Even if you've heard of Dr. Misuro Emoto,
Of course.
he did a lot of work. Veda Austin
Yes.
currently is huge in the world of water
Yeah.
because she shares a lot of wonderful experiments. And her techniques are freezing. So
Right.
you can see how intentions, thoughts, words, images can create uh, special patterns in the water and the frozen crystals. So it's just really, really fascinating because it continues to evolve. And like I said, the science and the spirituality are merging, right? There's more science now coming out that will kind of prove what our ancestors knew, and that water is life. For long, long ago, across all cultures, water was a very vital piece of their environment. That's why people live near water, because it began way back then, because you needed water to survive for food, for nourishment, hydration, um, and for ritual. It was very important. Even still now, there are practices in different religious communities, baptism, for example. It involves water. So there's a lot that can be traced back both in a cultural perspective, a scientific perspective, all of it now is kind of merging, and that's the exciting piece.
Right. And yeah, what you were saying about the fascia too, that was, I was really fascinated by that because I had taken several myofascial release sessions years ago and I took John Barnes's, I think I took a weekend course and met him. And obviously he works with the fascia. But what I remember them saying is that information travels through the fascia in the form of liquid, right? And that's why they have then recently have finally found out, oh, fascia has now been classified as an actual organ of the body, I think. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
of that, because there's information that's being passed through. all the muscles and tissue and whatnot. Uh, and if you think about Veda Austin's work, that's the most recent has been
Mhm.
incredible. But the intelligence of water, the memory of water,
Mhm.
that you know when we say infuse ourselves with certain frequencies, like the frequencies of our voice. I'm going to get right to it here.
Yes.
The
Yes.
frequencies of our voice, right? And the water in our body takes on those frequencies
Mhm.
and moves it through the fascial system,
Yeah.
I guess, or whatever, through all the organs and all the systems.
Yeah.
The thoughts that you're thinking. I think she has flash frozen her thoughts in water. And it
Yes.
comes back with an impression, an accurate representation of what she was thinking. So it's almost
Yeah.
like,
Telepathy.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
mind blowing stuff,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's exciting to see how different communities, different cultures perceive the stuff that's coming out both in the science and in the spiritual perspective. There's a lot of people who will I guess you call it manifestation, right? Like where they pour into whatever energy they're wanting to create in their life, in their reality, right? So if you want to shift let's say you're in a state where you're not happy with your job or something like that, right? Or you're unhappy with yourself. Let's start at the core, which is usually your own water body. People, and I myself, one of my favorite tools for growth and self-improvement is mirror work. I will stand in the mirror. I will do different movements and vocalize and using sounds, different frequencies to connect to that water body, to connect to myself. And most often, when you're having a release, when you're doing fascial release or somatic release, you'll have tears. Your body, the waterways will open up because your nervous system is relaxed, the fascia is relaxed. And so that tension that is being held in the muscles, in the fascia, in your organs ultimately, becomes solvent. It becomes released and will come out through many different ways. Sweating, a lot of native indigenous cultures use the temescal, right? The hot sweat lodges to sweat out. And oftentimes the ceremony itself involves connecting to a higher plane because you're in that state of deep purging. There's so many different things that we can look at when it comes to like how water interacts in our healing, in our growth, in our connection back to each other.
To us and yourself. Yeah.
Mhm.
What you're
Mhm.
saying, it comes out in so many different ways. I'll tell a little, brought up a little story. When I was in one of my sessions with myofascial release with the practitioner, she was compressing my chest for quite a long time. And all of a sudden, I started to unwind with a shaking, like I was just like uncontrollably shaking. And then all of a sudden, this primal yell comes out of my
Oh,
mouth that was I'm talking involuntary. I mean,
yeah,
I had no control over it. It's just like, "La." So,
yeah,
and she's looking at me, I'm looking at her, we're crying,
yeah,
and she's like, "This is why I do this work." She was
yeah,
so
yeah.
moved. We were both so moved by my body, the water, the
Yes.
compression of the fascia, the liquefying of the fascia whatever was held expressed itself through my voice.
Wow.
My body did that itself.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, I got to tell you, that's about one of the weirdest sensations I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
amazing.
certainly I've heard yeah, how powerful those releases can be. And I've had my own in different ways. Even just lately I've been working on this area here, both auditory and vocal, right? Like this area here, including my like I would say all of this, right? Including my third eye. And I did a like going into my mouth and like really massaged like the jaw and stuff. And I couldn't stop crying because and the memories I can't tell you specifically what the memories were because in that moment you're just in this state of like it's indescribable sometimes, but I just remember having memories of being younger and the tears were what I wanted to say coming through my eyes, if that makes sense, you know? So it was, yeah, it was definitely a very profound release. To move to physically connect the tissue in your body to the memories and yeah, and water holds memories. So it makes perfect sense that as you're moving through these memories, and they may not even be yours. You know, I know when you and I connected through the voice activation, for myself, a lot of the what was coming through were from my ancestors, where my lineage was,
Mm,
you know, was not mine, but was held in my body because it's in your DNA, you know, your blood, your waters, it's in there. So as we continue to do the work, we release things that may not even be our own, but it's so so potent to experience, you know?
yes, absolutely potent and profound. And they're finding, I just saw something where they're finding out that tears absolutely contain, now I'm not sure if they contain emotional peptides, the peptides of emotion,
Mm.
but they actually do release, as you say, there's memory, emotional memory in the tears that is being released.
Yeah.
And everybody who's had a good cry, right, for
Mm.
one reason or the other, whether it's
Yeah.
grief or joy or just because you need to release, as always said, you feel so much better
Yes.
to have
Yeah. You feel
cried.
lighter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible work. So tell us a little bit more about how you work with water in your calling.
Thank you. Um, for me, it's sort of multi-purposed. And that's sort of what I am led to explore is how, because really water can be part of every conversation. Um, when it comes to the science, when it comes to the spirituality, the rituals, even just communication itself, right? The waters that we share. One of the things that I love to do is, and I always, and you'll hear a lot of watery words and just in my everyday speech because it is part of who I am, right? And I do work with the other elements as well, but water holds everything. Because water is life, it holds the keys to everything. So oftentimes I'll guide people through what I call a water body activation. And water bodies really are emotional body. The waters are emotion, they're tied to the same, and emotions are just energy and motion. So when we move our water bodies, and most often, like I mentioned before, I practice a lot of mirror work for my own movement of different emotions and processing things. And so I guide people how to do that in a safe and supported way, because sitting in front of the mirror can be very confronting. You know, many of us are taught to not look at ourselves in the mirror, not look at our reflection. And if we go back, you know, hundreds and thousands of years ago, water was the original mirror. That was the
That's
first
right.
reflection, right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, so that's sort of where I bring it back to that ancestral way of let's use the mirror as our ancestors did with water in reverence. And what do you see in that reflection is God's creation, right? Like that's what you see when you look at the ocean, when you stand in awe at like, wow, this majestic thing that contains life and yes, can be scary because it's very deep and dark in parts, right? But also, what can we learn from the way the ocean moves, from the calmness of the waters, from the storms? So that's the same concept in a ceremonial way leading women, mostly, I mean, men as well, but mostly women because we're the ones that have repressed our emotions. Most often have been taught to repress that from early on. So that's the biggest way that I serve with water is to connect people to help them find a tool. Because ultimately everyone has to do the work for themselves, right? And there's no miracle, right? It's not just water. There's you are the miracle, and how you show up for yourself. So this is just one tool in the toolbox, I like to say. And then the other way is from a health perspective. So I was telling you about the water that I found in doing my research a couple of years ago, and it was electrolyzed reduced water. And you mentioned structured. So it's structured in also it has a negative charge. It's processed through these, and I can get really sciencey on you, but I think I'll keep it simple. It moves through, it's an ionization process that helps the water molecule when it splits, it becomes a little smaller, and it also makes it easier for your body to actually absorb. So sometimes, that's why I said not all water's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we will drink a lot of water, trying to be healthy, trying to stay hydrated, right? Because we know that that's good for us. But it may just feel heavy. It may not actually be absorbing because the molecules themselves are big. But when it goes through this process and breaks down the molecules into smaller molecules, not only is it more absorbable for your body and all your organs, therefore helping you not only hydrate better, but also, let's say you take supplements or vitamins, it's going to give you more of that supplement and vitamin. It's going to help you absorb that better
Wow.
versus just sitting in your stomach and then going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other aspect is that the water, when it gets split, has a hydrogen component. Now, if we remember chemistry class back in high school, hydrogen's the first periodic element. That means everything in the universe is made of hydrogen. And that's because it's kind of like the basis of life, right? There's a lot that is built on that. So this water, electrolyzed reduced water, it's also commonly known as Kangen water. I like to call it living water because of that hydrogen component. It makes it alive. And so that helps your body to come back to what it's supposed to be doing naturally, right? In today's world, it's so hard because you have, the EMF, the non-native EMFs coming at you, stuff in our food, in like our, in our air, all these things that free radicals that oxidize our body. And, kind of like, I mean, we're not gonna escape aging completely, right? Um, what we can do though is prevent some of the more detrimental things like disease and ultimately horrible things like cancer, things like that, right? Which, the founder, and I can't recall his name at the moment. I want to say Gerald Pollack, perhaps, but I apologize if it's the wrong person. Anyhow, they discovered that the basis of cancer is a body that is out of homeostasis, that is in acidic state,
Mm.
right? Do you know the pH scale? Have you seen it?
I'm sure I have at one point or another.
So roughly, and
Can't
again, this
remember.
is a little bit more of the science,
Yeah,
and we can
no, it's
definitely
fine.
keep it a little more user friendly, but the gist of it is, there's a scale, right, where things could be very acidic and things can be alkaline. You've probably heard that term. That's
Sure.
another buzzword, very common. So when the body is in a very acidic state, disease starts to form.
Right.
Ultimately, if that stays in that state, it can become something more serious, like cancer, right? So what the goal is to keep your body in a more neutral, slightly alkaline state.
Right.
And the blood has a very specific short little window of where it's supposed to be, right? Like too much of this is bad, too much of that is bad. So you want to be in kind of a slightly off neutral, like a little bit above 7. So with this water, it helps your body to recalibrate if to detox and remove some of the acidic components that are in there so that your body can function like it's meant to function. And that was the biggest aha for me, in knowing that there are different waters. Have you heard of the blue zones? I think we talked about this before. No?
No, I haven't. No, and that's why I was wondering when you talk about blue. I wanted to ask you two questions. First of all, what
Yeah.
is the significance of the blue bottle, the color of the glass? And two, how do
Mhm.
they get the water? What is the name of the water you're talking about? Kangen water?
Kangen water,
Okay,
yes.
okay. How do they make it? So the significance of the blue bottle and how do they make the get that extra hydrogen
Yeah.
molecule in there or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, good, really good questions. So the Blue Bottle, this is from Blue Bottle Love. It's a beautiful company based out of Hawaii. It's Italian blue glass, and blue is the frequency of water. So when you have different colors that are matched to different frequencies, water is usually tied to blue.
Sure.
So that sort of that keeps
Okay.
the integrity of the water in that you're drinking. And then to answer your second question, the process of ionization, uh, in this case, through Kangen water, is made in a device. So you connect the water source. Some people have well water, some people have, municipal water. You can have any different types of water sources as long as you have like a water source. And then it goes through 8 titanium platinum coated plates. And as it goes through there, it pulls the polarity because every element has a positive or negative charge. So that's the different. Now I'm getting a little more sciencey, but the
Okay.
different plate, the cathodes and the anodes in the plates will polarize the water, splitting it apart. And as it passes through that, it creates that split. And so the water comes through the machine. It's basically a simple portable device that you can put on your countertop, and it'll go through and create the waters. The beautiful thing too that I learned, it's not just drinking water. This machine also creates 6 different other types of waters. So you can use it to sanitize your home if you're going low tox. Like instead of bleach, you can use a different type of water. So it becomes
Wow.
a multi-purpose tool, and it's beyond just drinking water, so that you can wash your veggies in it. That way you're not eating, stuff on the vegetables, the pesticides, things like that.
Fascinating. So, have there been actual studies done of the water before this process and after the process? And they actually literally, it is molecularly changed the water,
Yeah,
this process?
there's a school. I mean, here's the thing. There's theory and there's like proven fact, right? There's like hypotheses and then proven fact. So there are more and more studies being done. But the technology's only been around 50 years. So there's not enough to say like, wow, this is science done fact, right?
Okay.
So there's always speculation on certain things. But you can certainly Google, if you go to PubMed and Google like electrolyzed reduced water, which is the actual scientific term for it, and like diabetes or Hashimoto's or things like that, and see the studies that were done for those specific ailments.
Hmm.
Because it initially, and actually in Japan, where these devices are manufactured and where the company is based from in Okinawa, they use these devices in hospitals, because it
Wow.
is a medical grade device, right? America, I think, is always a little behind
Oh,
on
just
more
a little.
holistic. Exactly. So,
Yeah,
so it's a little bit of a hurdle here to
sure.
show it as a holistic, therapeutic,
A
clinical.
viable,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
viable.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, all right. So no, but that's interesting. But so PubMed has studies where people have actually been drinking or using this water, and they
yeah,
are improving
yeah,
with their particular whatever ailments. That's pretty cool if they can, really actually narrow that down to say that it was actually the water, because there's so many other factors. But yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
cool. That's
yeah.
Basically, wonderful. Now, do you yourself have one of these devices at home
Yes,
that you
yeah, and
use? Okay.
that's sort of what took me down this path is um I invested for myself, for my health at the time. Like I said, I was looking into a more holistic. I was using medication for GERD, gastrointestinal reflux
Yes.
disease, really intense, very painful.
Oh.
And I had been on medication for about 12, 13 years daily. Nothing major, but it was medication I had to, I was just used to it. I thought that's the rest of my life I was going to be taking this medication. And I got the water, and about a month later, coincidentally, things happened in my professional career where I just wasn't in alignment with the industry I was in. I was in medical aesthetics before that. Um, pretty up there, and and just COVID really did me in, and to be
Oh.
honest with you, it was like, okay, I just don't want to be in that environment anymore. And one thing led to another. I found myself back to square one, finding a new path and purpose, and I did not have insurance. So my prescription ran out, and coincidentally, the water came in at the same time. And that's all I had changed. And that's how I know. I mean, I may be just one person, so not a study of one, but I changed just the water in that month and without the medicine. And I realized, I was like, wait, I don't have the pains because even with the medicine, sometimes I would have like still upset episodes, I called them, because depending on the food I was eating, so yeah, that's what I noticed. I was like, okay, wait, there's something happening in my body
Mm.
with just this simple change, just changing the water. I was already pretty healthy in general, but that was the beginning of where I was like, okay, let me learn more about how this interacts. And the
Wow.
key, though, is to remember everyone has a unique biochemistry. So uh, the water will help you do what your body's meant to do naturally. But it's not a cure-all, it's not a miracle, it's not, and technically, disclaimer, I must say, I'm not making any medical claims, right? Because we can't make medical claims about that. Um, I can just share what it's done for me, and people that I know as well. Having the discernment to
Mhm.
know what's for you and take what
Yes.
resonates and leave what doesn't, right? Like you
Right.
don't need to um, be against something if it doesn't resonate for you. Just, it's okay. But if it resonates for others, then let them, because a lot of it too is faith, right? Like we don't know, there's no science that proves God, right? But people have faith and believe that that's real, right? So it's the same concept, right? So there's an element of that too, because the energy of our thoughts, which is something we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation, the way you create that frequency from yourself, from your thoughts, your beliefs, your conviction, will make your reality what it is. So if you believe that, X, Y, and Z is good for you, then the good properties of it will be true, right? But if you believe something is bad for you, then that also will be true. A lot of it is your
Absolute.
own belief, because the
I
medicine is
absolutely,
within.
absolutely believe that your intention is trumps anything. Your
Hmm.
intention is king. It really is.
Yeah.
And that's, say, look, like say what I was doing before I take a glass of water, experimenting with this. And I didn't have any effect from it, but I was saying, like, talking to the water before I
Yeah.
drink it. And
Yeah.
I thank it and I say, water, would you please, help heal whatever is or out of balance in my body? Please help, take care of this. And then I drink it and I, feel it going down and say, thank you, thank you. I think that counts for a lot. I really do
Hmm.
because now we were talking earlier about the intelligence of water, the memory of water. And Dr. Emoto's work, of course, is, you know, he took pictures of this stuff. I mean, and so
Yeah.
did Beta Austin, right? But
Yeah.
that there is a definite correlation between an idea, a symbol, whatever, and how water is affected by that, or thoughts, or
Mhm.
whatever. So I feel that you're, speaking to the water. honoring it, putting it on, like some people will get mandalas or, different symbols
Yeah.
for spiritual symbols, and I'll put my water. I have one of those actually, and I put my water on it, the glass of water, and let it sit there. I used to do in my shower. I would I would tone to the water, and
Mm.
like just like say love. Love. I do that to the water because
Mm.
I'm thinking the water goes all the way. I mean, it goes in everything all the way around the earth. You think about, I'm fascinated by like where rivers and seas and confluences, where they
Yeah.
come together.
Yeah.
And all that water that's coming out of my shower, going down the drain, it's going into the groundwater. It's going into a stream down the road. It's being joining
Mm.
a big river, going out to the sea. Maybe,
Yeah.
somebody's going to drink it. It's going to go in their body. Some animal's going to drink it. It's like it's not just when you think of water like in your body, it's like that water in your body is part of the earth and has
Yes.
been for the time of inception.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
ancient.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
This
The water
what
cycle is always
Yes,
regenerating.
and it's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
us, that and the
Yes.
air too, all the elements,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But you think
Yeah.
about that water being, what you're drinking has been around this earth
Thousands and thousands. Yeah.
hundreds of
Millennia.
billion, million, zillion years, however long the
Yes.
earth has been around, right?
Yeah.
That just like blew my mind thinking about that one day. I just found that
Yeah.
to be, I don't know, there's just something very, as you say, ancestral
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
It's a very, very deep, deep connection to who we are, what we are on
Mm.
this beautiful planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that connects us all. The waters,
Yes.
your water speaking to my water, we're
Hmm.
communicating, and water is communication. It's in our bodies. It's how everything is communicating. And when we're dehydrated, right, which is what I call people that are not yet open, right, that are like closing. Yeah, when we hydrate things, when we hydrate a perspective, I have a good friend of mine, Jilly, who wrote a beautiful book called The Water Lens, and she really weaves in a lot of this watery perspective, right? Looking at everything through the lens of water and hydrating conversations, relationships, things you're building, business, everything. When you hydrate it, when you breathe life into it, it just changes and it grows, it expands. It's beautiful to witness.
Yeah, so it's like a metaphor, right? Water is a
Mm,
metaphor as well.
hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. So some of our audience members might be wondering, where can I get me one of them there machines to change the water? Or where can I
Yeah.
buy this water? Or, how do I make this water myself? Can you help us
Yeah,
out there?
yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. You can provide my contact information. The silvacascade.com is my website, and I can put you in contact. I'm local to New Jersey, the New Jersey area, but we are a global network. Like I said, the company is based out of Okinawa, Japan, and so there's quite a lot of people out there in the world. So you can experience the water near you. You can purchase your own system. There are other ways too that you can start today. There, like I said, shungite, if you can get access to that mineral, um, I want to say crystal, but I think it's a mineral. And you put that in your water. Copper, true copper vessels, like instead of blue glass, copper
Yeah.
is another great way to keep your water charged.
Hmm.
So th there's different ways. There's devices. I'm sure you go on Google, you find all kinds of
Right.
devices. Just again, have discernment. Uh,
Yes.
Not everything is made in integrity and with the highest quality. So yes, if you're looking for something cheap, there's always an alternative. What I do say though is if you can shift away from plastic, and I know sometimes that's all you can if you're grabbing something on the way or whatever, because when we're thinking of the waterways, and I'll end my portion with this, is just to honor the waters of the world is honoring our own waters, right? So what we're putting into our bodies is also what we're putting into the world. So if we're constantly consuming um, things that are in plastic containers, those microplastics. And there have been studies that have come out pretty recently, actually, about the level of microplastics in that are found in every organ of the body
Yeah.
nowadays. It's pretty scary if you really want to do a dive into that. But that means that we drink about a credit card size worth of like, here's a credit card. Like, imagine you're eating one of these, right? On a weekly basis and all the plastic stuff we consume. And that's from like the food, like if we're heating up our food in a plastic container, the take to go things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's part of modern life, right? You get takeout, it's in a plastic container. Some of those things you really can't completely eliminate. I mean, some people do, but if you can't, right? I'm one for balance. Um, do what you can to minimize, especially single-use plastic. That's the thing, because what happens? That plastic will not be recycled. That's a farce. Recycling is not really happening to the level that needs to happen. If you look up the great garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean, how big that is, that's all plastic. Our ocean animals are, I mean, I'm not, yeah, you
I
you
know.
you know,
I
you know.
know.
But
It's
that's
so
the thing
sad.
that like really, really, it really drives me to share this from the heart, because what is happening to the earth is what is happening to our bodies, and it's a direct correlation to what it's a symbiotic relationship. So
Absolutely. I just
take
said the same thing.
start within.
The water travels through us, it goes through the whole earth and comes back to
Exactly.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you can start within, even if it's a small change, right? To make a promise to start using glass, start using copper, stainless steel even, versus, plastic containers. And then trickle from there, one small switch can help.
Sure.
If we all did that,
Yeah.
those plastic water bottle companies would be out of business.
Great. Monica, this has been wonderful. Thank you. You obviously are very passionate about the sacredness of water, and I share that absolutely. So that's why I really wanted to talk to you about this. I'm very grateful to you and the work you're doing, and I will put Monica's information down in the description if you want to contact her and get more information on this. How you can also start to be a little more intentional about water yourself. Feel free to contact her. And again, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for watching. Thank you. Thank you. See you
Thank
next
you.
time.